You know, we're in a point here where we are making decisions that affect the nation and affect the world. And I got to tell you, the ineptitude about this and the incompetence with which this administration goes about achieving its own agenda in direct opposition, quite frankly, to probably what most of America wants and is really truly beneficial to the world is astounding. The truth is that in these negotiations with Iran on the their nuclear agenda, we are in a position where we are negotiating with, quite frankly, the masters of negotiation. You know, in my business life, I have, and this is not meant as some kind of a slant on on Persians or what have you, but I got to tell you, they are sharp negotiators. It's my own experience that when you're negotiating with Persians, they are a tough group. I can tell you this from my own personal experience. They are, you know, America, for whatever reason, doesn't want to negotiate on things. If you look at when you buy something, you know, most people in the country don't understand the principle of negotiation. They just kind of assume that, oh, well, that's the price. Let me tell you, that's not the way it works in most other places in the world. And it definitely doesn't work that way in Persia or in Iran or anywhere in the Middle East. These people are sharp negotiators. They've been doing it for thousands of years. And the United States, of course, because we're an economy that is built almost exclusively on consumerism, 70% to be exact, what that tells us is that we have been indoctrinated into the concept that you should always just pay whatever the asking price is. And the proof of that is if you've ever been over to a foreign place in Europe or anywhere in the Middle East or anywhere in Africa or anywhere in Asia, and you walk in to buy a trinket or to bring home to your kid, if you do not negotiate, they look at you with utter disdain. Their pricing is set exclusively high with the idea that you're going to negotiate. And, of course, these stupid, idiotic visitors go in there and say, oh, okay, that sounds cheap compared to what I'd pay for it in the United States. It's ridiculous. And by the way, this isn't limited to just Europe and Asia and the Middle East. Anywhere in South America, same thing. Every continent but the USA, that's the reality of the world. And what essentially has happened here is that this president has gone in and lifted sanctions on Iran months ago in anticipation of these negotiations. You gave away the one strength, the one effective tool that we had to negotiate on this issue. You don't lift the financial pressure, which is the thing that drove them to the table in the first place, before you've even actually gotten a chance to sit around a table. What an absurd principle. It's the number one rule of negotiation, that you use everything that is your strength to accomplish your goal, which is to get the best item at the best price. And in this case, the best item is to deny nuclear capabilities to Iran. And the price should be when they have given us what we want, which is their refusal or their new position that they will not utilize nuclear weapons, then we give them back what they want. The $50 billion we've got tied up in these offshore accounts that we've been holding since the Shah. The ability to sell their oil on the open marketplace. The ability to have currency transfers. That's what they want. But they want that and the nuclear ambition as well. This is, you know, and of course you got John Kerry out there who's so desperate to build his own legacy that he's willing to sacrifice, 7 billion of us on the planet to let that happen. Make no mistake about it. For the Iran to get nuclear weapons changes everything. There's an article I posted up this morning on our Facebook and website about how Saudi Arabia has already, long ago, purchased their nuclear weapons because they understood that if they ever wanted to be in a position where they were going to have the ability to defend themselves, that they would have to be at least capable or at least have the wherewithal to defend themselves or at least have the idea of a deterrent of nuclear weapons. And so the BBC reports this morning the Saudi nuclear weapons are already on order and paid for in Pakistan by the Saudi Arabian government. It's invested very heavily in order to avoid a non-proliferation treaty violation. They just haven't taken delivery. They've already bought and installed the missiles a long, long time ago. The only thing they don't have is the warheads. And interestingly enough, based on the observations of satellite imagery and so forth, the way that these silos where they have these missiles are pointed is already directly pointed at two nation states, Iran and Israel. Now, how can that be, you say? Well, if you don't understand the context and the complexity of the Iranian and Saudi Arabian relationship, you just don't get the idea of what's going on in the Middle East. One is a theocracy and the other is a monarchy. And the Saud family doesn't want to lose their grip on the nation. And they hate the Iranians. And the Iranians hate the Saudis. And the Saudis have already made it very clear that they would not allow Iran to have nuclear weapons without being in possession of them themselves. Now, I got to tell you something. And this comes from Gary Seymour. Until March of 2013, he was the Obama administration's counterproliferation advisor. Here's what he told Newsnight. Quote, I do think that the Saudis believe that they have some understanding with Pakistan that in extremis they would have claim to acquire nuclear weapons from Pakistan. In extremis. It doesn't take in extremis. All it takes is them to say, we want what we paid for. And we do know that Pakistan has been a broad exporter of nuclear technologies. In the 80s, they bought dozens of CSS-2 ballistic missiles from China. They're already sitting in silos pointed at Iran and Israel. And the truth of the matter is the only thing that they're missing is what? The warheads to make it all happen. The problem here is that we are fiddling around. It gives me the impression or the analogy of, we've got a room full of explosives and loose gunpowder laying all over the place. And, you send a child in there with a book of matches, the child being President Obama in this administration, and with absolutely zero concern for the implications of those actions. It's just insane. These people are unprepared, incapable, inept, and the truth is, they're not the ones who are going to pay for whatever mistakes they make. We are. And he's negotiating from a position of weakness right from the get-go. The truth of the matter is, we're not in a position where we are negotiating in good faith. Simon Henderson, who's the director of Global Gulf and Energy Policy Program from the Washington Institute, here's what he said. The Saudis speak about Iran and nuclear matters very seriously. They don't bluff on this issue. Now, to make matters even worse, Saudi Arabia has broken diplomatic ties with the United States over our policies in Afghanistan and our policies in Syria. And what you really need to understand is that because they are the protector, if you will, of the U.S. petrodollar agreement, or a party to it, I should say, but therefore it's protector because there's something in it for them, we're already on a tenuous thread with them. To me, it makes, and by the way, we have outfitted them with the most, I mean, talk about a proliferator of weaponry, right? Here we are pumping, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weaponry into Israel, and simultaneously handing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weaponry over to Saudi Arabia. And those two are age-old enemies. And we're sitting back there funding both sides and trying to hope that nobody's going to spark a Bic lighter in the middle of the powder room. The heck is that? What kind of a policy is that? And by the way, this isn't limited to just to President Obama. This has been going on for decades. This guy is just the last in a long line of irresponsible, inept, and incapable individuals to get over there and stick our nose in where it doesn't belong. I'm telling you that the simple truth is, and this is not an American protectionist concept, but we should avoid entangling enterprise with other nations. I mean, that admonition from Washington was well-deserved and honestly should be followed. Entangling alliances do nothing but embroil us in their problems. And then we're forced to take sides. And how do you take sides when you're allegedly allies of both? I mean, it's ridiculous. And then we're forced to sit like Solomon in judgment and to decide how many pieces the baby should be cut into. It is insane. I'm not suggesting it's as simple as, well, let's just pull everything back here into the United States and guard our own borders. I don't think that it's that easy. But I can tell you this. The Saudis consider themselves the patriarch, if you will, of the Arab world. And the truth of the matter is that they will not allow, and they've got the money to handle it, without a doubt. And we've given them the technological capabilities, and that which we haven't given them, they can certainly buy. Remember now that Saudi Arabia is one of the wealthiest nations on the planet, in large part just because of their oil reserves. And whatever they don't have, they can afford to buy. It's like Bill Gates in a pinch. I mean, the guy can buy anything he wants. The truth is that all of our international relationships are degenerating. And it's been a long, long train of abuses of those relationships and our positioning in the world that have put us in this position. But this president is the last in a long line of individuals who have, for all intents and purposes, not understood the person that they're in negotiations with. They don't understand the culture. They don't understand the implications of it. They just go in thinking that because we're the biggest bully on the block, we're going to get what we want by force and intimidation. And that's imperialism, folks. We're not in a position where we can bluff and bluster our way through this, because nuclear weapons are something that changes the entire import of the entire conversation. We're not sitting here negotiating about a couple of chess pieces on the board. We're negotiating about the building that the chessboard sits in, upon which the pieces sit. Big difference. I'll tell you, we are in a position here where we have zero political advantage, and the only thing that we've got is our power, the projected power that we can use, but more like a bludgeon than a surgeon's knife. And that leaves us in a very, very precarious position and an untenable position in terms of negotiation. Because remember that with nuclear weapons and with nuclear capabilities, everybody's on an equal footing suddenly. Assuming that they've got, intercontinental delivery mechanisms, the truth is that we're all on the same footing then. And all of the bluff and bluster that we have doesn't do any good. It's like the biggest guy in the room. Let's take a professional football player. The guy's built, he's gigantic, he's, and he understands how to fight. But if the opponent that he's up against is a small guy who's doesn't have the wherewithal to withstand the blows, but if he puts himself in a position where he's got body armor on, suddenly he's just changed the entire balance of power. And this is no different. Iran is wearing body armor. And what we don't know is that they've got a pistol secreted into their waistband. Israel is upset with us, and rightly so, because they understand that what we've just done is lifted the sanctions that brought Iran to the table in the first place. That is insane. And it will also create a problem for them where we're forcing their hand. And then what are we going to do? Come out in condemnation of them when they take action unilaterally? You see, the problem is that we're now burning the candle at not only both ends, but we've scraped away the wax in the middle, and we're burning it in the middle too. This is dangerous territory, because the implications of this have not only implications domestically for us, but it changes the world power struggle. The state of power in the world will be shifted. The truth is, nobody should have the nuclear weapons. Not us and anybody else. But to believe that that would be some utopian state of affairs that's achievable would be the height of stupidity. They exist. We can't change that. We can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak. So the best thing that we can do is make sure that not everybody's got access to their own genie. While this administration is out there fumbling around like the Keystone Cops, trying to negotiate a concept that they don't even understand, with a people they don't grasp, with a culture they don't understand, and who are some of the best negotiators on the face of the planet, this administration is trying to do internationally what it's done domestically. So Iran's going to get to keep its nuclear weapons, and Americans lose their health insurance and get racked down the executive order slide into total tyranny. Gee whiz, thanks a lot. Whose side is this administration on anyway? The truth is, we are at a moment where, we have to really consider the impact of where all of this progressivism and liberalism has taken us, domestically and internationally. The idea that we can, and by the way, just for the record, and I know this is a little bit of an aside, but it's important here. Did you know that Australia came out yesterday and made a very, very emphatic statement they had instituted a new carbon tax involved with the issue of global warming, right? Climate change, whatever you want to call it. And they came back to the UN yesterday. You know what they said? Socialism masquerading as environmentalism must end. And they will no longer be a party to it. They will not sign up to any new contributions. They will not participate in any more tax schemes. They will not accept any more charges, nor will they accept any more dictatorial proclamations from the United Nations. The truth is, socialism and this liberalism and this progressivism that we have been following as a nation have placed us in a position where we no longer have a level of credibility from which to position and negotiate ourselves. It is an absolute ridiculous assumption to believe that these guys are sitting here telling us we're on the edge of a breakthrough in negotiations, when the truth is they don't even know who and what they're negotiating with and for. And we only get one crack at this, ladies and gentlemen. There's only one chance to get it right. And if you trust these bumbling idiots to do it, holy smoke, have you latched onto the wrong horse team? All right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. When we come back, we're going to touch on the next topic, which is Obamacare, union payback, and the comparison between that and capitalism. And I think this is an important segment because there's an organization out there I'm going to talk to you about, but there's a bunch of other organizations that I've already brought to your attention before that'll help you to avoid Obamacare, which are acting in the spirit of capitalism. And so let's talk a little bit about why capitalism works and progressive liberalism, nanny statism, doesn't. You're listening to America's Voice. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the host here. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a hard break. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org, facebook.com/America's Voice Now, and also on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. If you want to download podcasts of the show, you can do that directly by going directly to Spreaker.com/America's Voice Now. That's Spreaker, S like speaker, but with an R involved in it. So it's SPR, Spreaker.com/America's Voice Now. There you can just simply download a podcast, and once you have that podcast downloaded as an MP3 file, you can play it on any audio device you want, including your mobile phone or what have you at your leisure. Download it on Wi-Fi, put it on your phone, and then you can listen whenever you want. We'll be back in just a moment.